It's difficult to look at the state of certain fandoms and how they are controlled by people who have no idea what they're doing. Outsiders come in and strangle the love of what we enjoyed and become examples of why gatekeeping is such an important thing. It's like a business that found success and then merges with a bigger one, who guts it, and in the name of improvement, shows that what we have left is a bastardized shell only to be tossed aside and treated like it was going to be a bad investment anyway. I was a massive Star Wars fan for many years, and it felt like my love for it was undying decades ago. Going through Star Wars fan websites and the forums, I would come across a post from someone who talked about how it saved his life. He was ready to turn the lights off on his living, and he sees the first Star Wars movie in the theaters, not knowing he would fall in love with it. Suddenly, he wanted more and would begin keeping up with the stories. This was around 2003, so whoever this person was, and if they were even able to be alive at this point to see what would become of the franchise, is completely unknown for me. To expand a little further, another example of what I'm talking about here is someone who does very good work, Enclave Emily. Her name is in reference to the Fallout franchise, and when I'm available to pull up a stream, and as she's watching a video from a shill discussing the Amazon TV series or the newer games, she would be rightfully heated about it because she's not some casual fan. She's dedicated so much of her time to understand the Fallout games and the universe that they've been established in. So when the Amazon series came out and we could see how awful it was, I would hear a piece of her die inside. What I'm getting at is the question of why we give a shit. Back during the release of The Last Jedi, there were two sides. There were the people who hated the movie, and there were shills. There were also those who chose to express how much they couldn't care, and the circle jerk was obnoxious. You may have seen people posting an image declaring, quote, "This is a movie about space wizards intended for children," which is such a major act of fedora tipping and completely missing the point. And what that point is can be illustrated by the works of Tolkien. I am one of those who considers The Lord of the Rings to be a religious work, specifically Catholic, except much less on the nose as The Pilgrim's Progress would be. Poor Tolkien would receive contact from many fans who didn't quite understand him. We're talking about a man who was obsessed with language and Old English folklore. And to give an idea, I'm going to read from the Tolkien Gateway website. Quote, "As a deeply religious person, Latin also held significance to Tolkien due to its use in the Catholic Church. During the period 1962 to 65, the Catholic Church went from the process of switching from Latin to the local vernacular. This greatly displeased Tolkien. Simon Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien's grandson, wrote the following. I vividly remember going to church with him in Baldermouth. He was a devout Roman Catholic, and it was soon after the church had changed the liturgy from Latin to English. My grandfather obviously didn't agree with this, and made all the responses very loudly in Latin, while the rest of the congregation answered in English. I found the whole experience quite excruciating, but my grandfather was oblivious. He simply had to do what he believed to be right." That's the end of the quote. Now, you take a man who was passionate, allow him to world build, and he creates work that revolutionized fantasy writing to a point where new authors would struggle to not rip him off, or they would try to become the anti-Tolkien. What Tolkien did that was so notable was creating a mythology. Whether or not this was his intention is completely irrelevant, and what's important is how he handled his work. There's a reason the Silmarillion reads more like a dry history book than a traditional novel. It behaves more comparatively to the Bible except for the world Tolkien created. As George Lucas himself said, his films are for 12-year-olds.
Seeing all the kids, it's hard for people to realize, and I'm not supposed to say this, and I wasn't supposed to say it then, but, it's a film for 12-year-olds.
But it brings out the kid in all of us, doesn't
Yeah,
it? I
well,
mean,
it was designed to be a film like mythology of this is what we stand for. You're about to enter the real world. You're 12 years old. You're going to go on into the big world. You're moving away from your parents being the center focus.
Tolkien didn't take this approach. The Hobbit was a children's book, but he expanded in a way that truly makes his work approachable for any age, and the result is that the readers have something that they can explore and even academically study. Humans crave stories. I think it's part of how we have overly dramatic people who want to be the main character in their setting. Mythology used to explain the wonders of our tangible universe, and when mythology was given a sense of obsolescence after questions received verifiable answers, people seem to forget the value that they have. When an author creates genuinely wonderful stories set in an intriguing world, the audience won't only care for the story, they will want to know how the world of the story works. Humans are naturally curious, and the mythology allows humans to explore different ideas, ethics, emotions, all made more enjoyable and worth it when having people joining in with that discussion. This is the essence of the man I talked about earlier, who saw Star Wars in the theaters and realized he wanted to live just to see what happens next. How insulting does it have to be for the person who created what you passionately love tell you that it's meant for 12-year-olds, while his last film implies Anakin slaughtered the younglings? Nordic, Greek, and Roman mythology don't serve the purpose of explaining how the universe works for us as it used to, yet we take such lengths to study and understand them. We still get something out of the stories. World building and mythology helps to create a sense of community for people, and it's easy to forget when today's world building is often done for the sake of commercialism. Mythology is an exercise for your monkey brain. How long do you have on our giant dirt ball? You don't really know, and the best you can give is an estimation. The point is, you don't have time for slop. Your time and attention are limited, and you will feel this much more the older you get, and the fleeting chances for enrichment will disappear. This is why we give a shit.